Hello, hello. Sorry I'm a couple minutes late getting on here. You gotta love technology when it gives you a little bit of trouble. So here we are. I was getting kind of worried that we weren't going to have anything fancy, but I'm glad we're going. So my name's Carmen. I am a myofunctional therapist. I have a very large global practice, which means I see people all over the world to bring myofunctional therapy to parts of the earth that otherwise wouldn't get it. So I do that. And I am also an educator. So I teach other dental hygienists and dentists and speech therapists to be myofunctional therapists or how to implement it into their practice. So I do this a lot and I am always here to educate. So my new blog came out this morning, and it's all about the comprehensive exam. So the what and the why of it. And I'm going to be diving quite a bit deeper in this conversation, in this Myo Minute, to address 6 things that you should learn from your comprehensive exam. So I'm going to just jump right into those. So the reason I say these are things that you should learn from your comprehensive exam, because when I do a comprehensive exam for somebody, I wholeheartedly feel like my job is to educate you so that at the end you don't have any questions. So I'm going to ask you a lot of questions during the exam, but I want you at the end to be able to see how everything connects together so it makes sense for you, so you don't have any questions. And when I was preparing for this, I went back through the things that really intrigue people and they really kind of get stopped with this. They just really get stumped on how this stuff matters to them. So first, let's talk about why you may have tension or poor posture. I'm going to tie this right into a tongue tie, no pun intended there. When somebody has a tongue tie, the shoulders are rolled forward, the diaphragm is compressed. So many of my clients say, oh, they're just being upright is work. It's a ton of problems. When somebody has a tongue tie, it's like wearing a size small instead of a size large. So a large population of the people I educate are women, and I feel like we have totally done this before. We've put something on where we can't move our arms. It's too small. That's what it's like living with a tongue tie. So when I talk with clients and we're talking about this chronic upper body tension, we're talking about that forward head posture. That forward head posture can come from a couple things. One, it can come from the connective tissue relatedness of a tongue tie, of being rolled forward. Also, we see forward head posture like this with that chin forward in somebody who is trying to get more air. So that's kind of another conversation. My goal when I work with clients is I want their ears to be over their shoulders. So good posture, you want your shoulders back. I am not a chiropractor. I am not that person that teaches that. It is my job to help educate and talk about that so that my clients know that it's a piece of the puzzle. So definitely we talk about that. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Why might I grind and sleep bad? This really is my path of passion here. If you have been following me for any amount of time, you know that I am so passionate about sleep apnea because it kills people. It's a very debilitating, it's a very deadly disease. It's very expensive, and it's also extremely misunderstood. And oftentimes you might go to your dentist and they say, oh, grinding, yep, let's give you an appliance. Oh, you're snoring, let's give you an appliance. You don't sleep good, well, maybe we should try and figure that out. But typically, how it is addressed is with a grinding appliance or a snoring appliance. And if you wear a grinding appliance, you know that it doesn't stop you from grinding. Now, granted, there's a time and a place for it. It protects your teeth from grinding, but it records the crime. It is very often related to a tongue tie and an airway crisis, and people who grind their teeth, when they get an appliance, they're just getting a Band-Aid. And I always tell you guys this, I don't put Band-Aids on bullet wounds. So when a client comes to me and they say, well, Carmen, my dentist today told me I should get a grinding appliance, I want them to get an exam first so we can talk about what I see. We can talk about the myofunctional impairment. A lot of my clients have a tongue tie, and many of them have sleep disordered breathing concerns, and it's my job to work with you to help dig through all of that information so I can get you going the right direction. I don't want to send you to get a frenectomy done if we've got an airway issue that could be severe sleep apnea that we need to talk about right now. So that's why many of my clients, from the day they have their frenectomy done, they sleep better. And a lot of that is tied to the fact that they have already started myofunctional therapy, which is very important to get that correct tongue posture. Because let me ask you this, if the tongue is in the roof of the mouth like it belongs, it's really kind of difficult for it to be in the back of your throat. So that's where we don't want it. Low tongue posture is not what we want. So we start working first on the tip of the tongue, then we work to get the middle of the tongue up, and then eventually we're getting the back of the tongue up. So that is one of my goals. Airway is my biggest concern. Next, another thing that you should learn from your comprehensive exam is why speech therapy failed. You guys, if I had a $5 for every time somebody contacted me and said, well, my child has been in speech therapy for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. Imagine the frustration. This story really hits home for me, and I've shared it with many of you before, that my granddaughter, the same thing. She had 3 years of failed speech therapy. Not one person lifted and looked under her tongue. And imagine her embarrassment when she is in a gifted program at school and she's very intelligent and she can't say her R's. So sometimes your child or even your own speech issues can't be won because nobody is lifting and looking. So I encourage everybody to lift and look, and that is going to help give the client some direction. Myofunctional therapy is not speech therapy. However, getting proper tongue posture, getting proper strength, getting the mouth closed, nasal breathing, those things are all going to help. So many parents come to me and they say, you know what, we have just gotten so frustrated, we're stopping. We can't do speech therapy anymore because we are just wasting our time and money. So what's the definition of insanity? Stop doing it. Find some different avenues and get some different answers. Okay, the next thing that you're going to learn is why you might have had trouble breastfeeding. So when I do an exam, I ask you questions all the way back to infancy. Were you breastfed or bottle fed? If you were bottle fed, why? Sometimes people say, well, that's just what my mom did, or that's just what they did back then, which that's okay. That's a very solid answer. But a lot of people say, well, my mom said it was terrible. She couldn't nurse me. She couldn't get adequate milk. You know, all of these different things. I'm digging for a tongue tie. You know, those are the questions that I'm looking for to help me in that diagnosis. So for somebody who has a tongue tie and they have no idea the connection, when somebody has a tongue tie and they can't latch, they've just never had that connection made for them. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm also looking to learn if you were a happy baby, sad baby. Did you cry a lot? Did you spit up? For crying out loud, did your parents have to prop you up in the corner of the crib because you had acid reflux so bad? Did somebody give you baby Zantac? You know, all of those things. What about ear infections? That is an inadequate swallow. And in somebody who has a tongue tie, we know beyond a shadow of a doubt, you don't swallow properly. You might think so. You don't realize that it's broken, but that's just your normal. So you haven't done it right since about halfway through your mom's pregnancy. And that is why we see ear infections, is because the eustachian tubes, which are right across here, don't drain properly. Okay. Why is my face shaped the way it is? So that craniofacial development is very important. So the tongue being up, that helps. It's a scaffolding to shape your face. Nasal breathing helps that. Breastfeeding, every time an infant has to go up and use the tongue to work, it is work to breastfeed. That helps spread the maxilla out, which is the upper jaw, drives the shape of the mid-face. So if you look at my face, I kind of have this long, narrow face. If you look at me from the side, you can see I have this, we call it a vertical jaw angle. That is because I was a chronic mouth breather. For years and years and years, I always had my mouth open. I was chronically congested. I've told you guys this before. I used to take 4 allergy pills a day. So I've been there. I've done it. I've been through it. But my face still shows the evidence. And so many of you come to me and I can look at your pictures. I can look at you and I can already start to form an opinion about what your habits were in the past if they aren't anymore. So that's what I look for with that. The other thing is when I do an exam, I also look at your nose, lip, chin. So I look at your profile and I'm looking to see if you have a recessed jaw. I'm looking to see if your chin is pushed way back. If you have, we all think that double chin under here. That's not necessarily from weight. A lot of people always think that sagginess under the chin is from, having too many Danishes. I don't know. But if you think about trying to hang a hammock and you have 2 trees and they're too close, your hammock's going to sag. And so that's the same thing. If you visualize the jaw growing forward, you're not going to get that hammock nice and tight. So facial development and the shape of our face tells me a lot. All right. And then last, why are my teeth crooked again? I hear this a lot. It happened to me. Of course, mine was really from my swallow because I had a tongue thrust swallowing pattern. But my best explanation for you guys comes from the book called The Dental Diet by Dr. Stephen Lin. And he talks about if you think about your jaws as like stadium seating. So say you wanted to put 16 chairs in a row, you're creating a stadium. And if you pour that concrete and it gets wet or the sun comes out, something happens and it warps that or it shrinks that concrete up, you are not going to get those 16 chairs in there in this nice straight line. That is the same with your mouth. So if you do not have adequate facial development coming forward, you're never going to get your seats in there straight. You're never going to get your teeth in there. And that's the biggest thing. If you want to drop into that rabbit hole and start researching, you can research something called epigenetics. You can research other cultures that do not have the refined foods that we have here in the U.S. Other cultures that are pretty indigent and poor, they have room in their face for all of their teeth, and that's because they grow properly, unlike the changes that we've seen here in the U.S. So that's a whole nother conversation, but there's a lot of it if you want to dig for it and learn more about it. But the bottom line is you can go to your orthodontist every year, every single year. You're going to find somebody who will let you pay them to straighten your teeth again. But structurally, you're never going to keep those straight teeth because the rest of your bone, so your jaw, you don't have room for it. And God forbid, don't let somebody pull teeth out of your kid to make space because a small mouth just becomes a smaller mouth. Again, that's a different conversation and one that we'll have to visit one of these days. But so many people, adults come to me and they say, Carm, I wore my retainers forever, or I have these lingual wires that are permanently glued in there and my teeth are still shifting. And it happens. It totally happens all the time. And it's just because you really weren't meant to get all those seats in that row. So that explains that. Okay. Next week, I went a little bit long today, but I had a lot to cover. So next week, we're going to be talking about mouth breathing, why it's bad for your health. So I'm super excited about that. And then last, let's talk about the assessment tool. I talk about this each week for you. Let me find it. Sorry, my mouse is not cooperating. The assessment tool. Figure out for yourself if you have concerns. You can download this. You can get it at the bottom of any one of my blogs. And it is going to give you 25 questions. So I just talked about all those things I'm going to ask you when we do a comprehensive exam. Do this for yourself. Do it for your child and figure out if you have concerns. Since I started doing this quick assessment tool, I get so many emails where people say, I said yes to 23 things. I said yes to 18 things. My kid says yes to 24, or I say yes to 24 things for my kid. You guys, this is a free tool for you to use. So get it. Answer some questions. Reach out to me. You know where to find me. I told you what we're going to talk about next week. You can find me here every week. I do have a couple changes coming up on a couple Wednesdays. I will be traveling, so you guys are going to get something that's pre-recorded live. So best I can do since I will be in an airport. I have some speaking engagements because I do teach this stuff, so I'm really excited about that. Follow me on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I do have the Tongue Tie and Myofunctional Therapy support group. My email's out there. If you have a question, if any of this resonates with you, if you do the quick assessment tool and you want more help, you know where to find me. So have a beautiful, fantastic Wednesday. Thank you for all of you guys who always show me your love and support. And I will see you next week. Bye for now.